On August 16th, 40,000 ticket holders and the area surrounding Watkins Glen, New York were ready for a long weekend of face-melting jams and all of the economic benefits that come with 3 days of debauchery. But to everyone's dismay, news broke late afternoon on Thursday that Curveball was canceled due to water contamination. Tents were pitched, vendors were set to sell, and the band was ready for sound check. Many traveled from across the country to take part in what would have been Phish's 11th festival. The call to cancel was a collaborative decision between Watkins Glen International, Schuyler County Soil and Water Conservation District, and the New York State Department of Health. We caught up with the Schuyler County Sheriff at the Watkins Glen substation to learn more about why Curveball had to be canceled.
Lieutenant Todd Day with the Schuyler County Sheriff's Office. Between the state of emergency that occurred in the county on Monday and then all the rainfall that continued to come, the water table came up and the water got contaminated down in Watkins Glen, so they ended up later in the week having to put up boil water and learn out.
Watkins Glen was the only village of Schuyler County to issue a boil water mandate. Sheriff Day mentioned that the wet fields were also a concern and that they anticipated not being able to provide dry grounds for all of the campers. To mitigate this, they flew in helicopters to aid in drying out the wet areas. But ultimately, the State Department could not finish issuing the permits due to a runoff from the storm earlier in the week that contaminated Seneca Lake. According to a press release from the Department of Health, all available options to continue the festival as scheduled were explored, though they declined to acknowledge what these options were or why the call to cancel was made so late. We spoke to various hired security personnel who said that the weather had cleared up for 2 days leading up to Thursday. We were not able to find anyone working directly for the band for comment. The grounds were quiet, but the night began to bring in a positive energy. Everyone was in good spirits and ready to have a night of fun despite the circumstance. We spoke to some fans to see how they were feeling.
I'm Jake. I'm here at Curveball.
I'm Adi, enjoying Curveball.
We're bummed that the festival's not happening, but we're not going to let it stop us. We're going to have a great time.
We've been having a great night so far.
Tammy Dayton from Brandon, Vermont, originally Killington, Vermont, now came to my first Phish festival, which has been canceled because of natural causes. First time in Fishery that this has happened. So, I'm blessed. I'm grateful. So, the ditch party is supposed to be on the other side of the venue. There's no show, there's nothing else going on. We're breaking it.
The Prince of Music neglected to play a single bar, but the music trapped inside his head resounded and filled the space instead. People gathered, celebrated, and we met some unexpected friends.
He just likes
He's just trying to review Curveball.
He's walking up in the He can't even review it.
He can't even review Curveball.
There was nothing to review this weekend. The whole thing was terrible, to be honest with you. If I had to be totally honest.
You're not having any fun?
Yeah, actually there was some fun to be had, Thursday night.
This is why I'm here, is because of this band. And as much as it sucks, we do what we do. We do what we do and we keep going, and that's exactly what it's about.
Curveball is the first festival in history to be canceled. As much as everyone was shocked, the news was strangely anticipated. The painfully ironic outcome is enough to wonder. Did our collective minds manifest the curve itself? While many decided to leave, a core decided to stay and get their fix. The silent trees reminded us to never waste the day, helping us to live out the night in the best way that we can, with each other, sharing in the view. Friday was met with pre-dawn rain. Passerbys gave their best cracked smile as the reality of the curve resettled in. The morning wake-up was a slow race to be out by noon. In the gray of the new day, instead of cooking up a hearty breakfast, preparing for 3 days of euphoria and exhaustion, we sadly pack up our things and wonder, was this divine intervention of the cosmos? A concerned Mother Gaia? A Trump administration ploy to shut down mass consciousness? It seems in this reality we will never know. We will never know if there would have been an Aretha tribute song, never fallen into the orchestrated abyss of Chris Kuroda's Light Symphony, never searched for our lost brains, running empty-headed and barefoot through the fields. We'll never know what the curve would have been. We do know if it was 1969, babies would be born and the show would go on. But it's 2018 in our litigious America, and we have 3 days worth of drugs, nowhere to go, and a bruised libido going into the wide-open weekend ahead.
It's unfortunate, understandable at the same time, and I don't think anybody should be really put at blame specifically because of all the, everything that is going on in the area. It's, I don't know, just
Like, you get it, but it sucks.
You're not mad, you're not angry.
You still made the best of the night, though.
Yeah, last night was fun.
It's a bit of a bummer. I've been to most of the Phish festivals though, so it is what it is. It's not Phish's call. If it was their call, they would have played, of course. But the health department of the state of New York says it's not happening. I think that's probably the be-all, end-all, right?
Apparently.
Yep, for sure. But it seemed curious the timing to get so many people here, only to tell them that they had to ultimately leave. But once again, it's nobody's decision to make but the state of New York, I guess. So it is what it is.
Yeah, being with community is a big part of the reason why we still drove in when we heard about the cancellation. Because we were only like 30 minutes away. We pulled off on the side of the road, and then we ended up talking to some other people who were sort of in this limbo stage of, do we stay, do we go? And it's like, well, the festival's off, but I was like gravitating toward being with people who were sharing that experience.
But yeah, it was a nice night, good weather. Lots of love. I'm going to give him a massage so he can push on the gas pedal and not get somewhere.
The biggest question now is, where to? It seems that most events aren't planned. We decide to surrender to the flow and see the sights of the local area. Nature was one way to take the edge off. And there's our favorite go-to.